Welcome to this review of season 2 of Leadership. Actually, it's not love, it's leadership.
How is it the end of series 2?
I know, and look where we are.
we have gone up in the world. We are in Media City.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I
The
didn't.
famous people before us, and now we're the famous people.
I was. Oh right, okay. No, there's some great people in this room.
There are.
There have been. Sorry, there are. Yeah. Wow. Like it's felt like this series. It's been a long time.
Yeah. I think a lot has evolved. We'll call it evolved. I feel like I've grown up a little bit in the podcast world. Not in life, but in the podcast world.
How's that?
When I reflect back to series 1 and then into series 2, and we're going even further into the future, like we were like kiddies just starting out doing messing about trying to make it work, and I laugh at our setup and how we made that happen. And I think throughout series 2 we got a bit of this could be good, this could be all right, actually. We need to get a bit more thought behind it, and still you're like trying to work it out. But I think episode by episode we've had like a bit more of reflection and gone, oh, what are we going to do differently, or that worked, or so trying to up our game, and again in the next series we're trying to up it again. So yeah, I feel like we've come on quite a long way in terms of our guests. I guess some of them now will wish that, the ones at the beginning will wish that they could come on now, because we've learnt a lot, but had some amazing guests as well. Like, wow, how's that happened?
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think some of the, I guess why we're in the room today and why we've got, producer Megs and with, lighting and the setup has actually been through some of the critical feedback that we've had from guests, which has been, and outside people and support that we've had from the likes of James, that has just, asking us those, because, like you say, when we started this, when I think back, it was like literally,
where does this go? How do you plug this in?
I've got an idea, I can talk, I've got the principle, but how it all comes together, I've got no idea. And the people that do this that have got the expertise, like, fair play.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've got, I really like the theming. We've stuck with that, actually. So even though a lot of things have evolved, then the core essence of, the messy class idea that we had, because we never wanted to come over and say we've got all the answers, although we do work in this space and we experience a lot of that. I think it's being advocates for those people that we support and look after, and knowing that we're human as well. And we, that's why we connected, because we don't always get it right. But we are connected, and we are getting more connected to amazing people. There's some common themes throughout. I think we constantly go, oh, I'm so excited about this guest, and wow, wasn't that really great? But I think there's some themes coming through in that part. Would you agree?
I would, and I think the thing that's become really clear for me is it is about the audience, and it is about making lives of managers or future leaders, their lives a little bit easier, because it is such a difficult job. And I think I'll always come back to, like, that's the purpose, that's why we're doing this. And we're there to serve an audience, and the more that we can do that, the more we can get insight and inspiration from people of all walks of life, the diversity of thought, the diversity of experience, the better it will be. And it's been fun, it's been a joy. It's not always been easy. There's been loads of mistakes. We've been on a roller coaster, and we've had some crunchy conversations.
We really have, but they've been good. Like, the output has been good, that we've gone away and gone, oh, we've said some really, as you said, crunchy things or itchy scratchy things, but it's with good intention, it's with positive intent. It's because we care about this, about each other, and want it to be the best that it can be, and I think I've learned a lot from you as well. You're like, I'm a dreamer, but you are a dreamer with courage. I say that, and you're really brave to step out. And I'll go, oh, really? We're going to do, you're like, yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to make that happen. And I go away and reflect and go, okay, well, I don't think there's any reason why not. Let's get on that wave and try and make that happen. You know, and I love that, you know, and I love that energy and bringing that into wider than this podcast. Sometimes I get excited and think, God, where could this go? Or what could we do? Or what impact could we have? You know, because for me and for you, I think it is about making a difference, though. There isn't just about, well, I'll have some fun on a podcast, because that's really important to me. But you know, that part of it's okay not to be okay wherever you are as a leader or as a person, really. Actually, a lot of this stuff applies to life as well as, you know, your leadership. That's okay. And we all mess up. All the best on this couch have messed up, and they've learned from it and they do something different. And so, you know, if we hit you on a day where you feel like things are being messy or you're not where you want to be, that's okay. You kind of accept it and go, right, well, what can I learn from it? And hopefully you've learned from lots of the guests. And I guess when we talk about that, I think it's really important to give them some credit around who have we seen in series 2.
Yeah, and thank you, you know, thank you for that. You equally have inspired me in lots of ways. You have a similar open-mindedness to things. You definitely have a practical element that goes, well, how do we tie all this together and how do we make it work? There's been, you know, some 2:00 a.m.s, you know, before it is due to go live the next day. But I kind of do go, well, what's the art of the possible? You know, and everything has to start. We've made a start, and then we've been agile. And you know, a lot of people will speak to me, and in your world of change, where you have to kind of be agile and open. So hopefully, you know, we'd like to grow the audience. Of course, we could like, follow, subscribe, but it is about how do we continuously seek variety and diversity so that leaders can go and do something in their own world. You know, so if they're walking the dog or they're in the car listening to this, it gives them something. And I actually think the series review, you know, is a really good way to hopefully snapshot what the essence of this series has all been about.
Absolutely. So we are going to look at the guests. We're going to give a little insight or what we took from them. But are there any common themes coming out for you? I know there are a few for me in particular.
The people, the leaders, a lot of people have said it's about people. A lot of people, the humility in the guests that we've had on has really struck me from the vast majority of guests, if not all guests. And the third thing is people often speak about luck, how they've been lucky in their careers.
Yeah.
And my personal view is they've created their own luck, or they've had a mindset that's allowed them to take those opportunities. It's been a common thread, like, throughout.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. You know, that's been common thread for me. I think on top of that, I think those leaders that we've had, they know their story. Like, they've spent some time assimilating, processing, and understand their own story, because it starts with us first. You know, if we're going to lead other people and be able to, you know, lead them forward, we've got to understand us and where our story plays out and the impact that might have, and where we might, you know, not be successful because of certain things, and kind of evaluate that and move that forward and have those messy moments. They've all had those really messy moments. We haven't had one person on the couch that's gone, well, I haven't had a messy, you know, it's all been streamlined, and because that's not the way life works, you know. But what the difference is kind of, and what does that mean? I've experienced this and I felt it in this place and it wasn't great, but what that meant is I now can, or I'm now able to, or I see things differently. I think that's really important. And the people side is more it's the human stuff. We talk about it is like, I see people as humans, you know, and that this human leadership for me is really strong throughout all of our guests that we've had so far. It's a really, really strong calling. I think that command and control way of leading, you know, we haven't seen any of that in this room. And it might be because we attract a certain leader, but I think, you know, they are all successful because they they want to get to understand the individuals and themselves, and how do we lead in that space. It's kind of that ecosystem, and work isn't separate to that. So
It's my favourite word, that ecosystem.
Is it?
Yeah. It is, because I always think of it like that in
Yeah.
terms of family life, work life, like for personal. It's all got to fit together.
It really has. I talk about, Dave's one of our guests, Dave Harrison, and he said to me before I started, what do you need outside work to be happy in work? And that is I've never been asked that before, but that is the ecosystem. We've got to deliver for work, and we have those expectations, but also if work really understands what we need to deliver outside that, and we try together to achieve both, things are going to be much easier, aren't they? So yeah, you're right. It's not work-life balance. It's a whole life balance.
And just thinking about the podcast, and it's been messy at times. What's been some of the difficulties doing we're now into the end of the second series?
Yeah. I think you're thinking we could do too much in it. So the practical part of actually giving people real attention and, listening and to understand and ask the right questions. We thought that we could probably do that a number of times on the same day. And I think that was a real lesson. It can be really exhausting, although it's really joyful and energizing, to be able to give that much impact. So I think we've spread it out a little bit so we can give people a bit of room as well, and ourselves to kind of process and digest. So I think that has been a good lesson. I think having a formula, I think that's like a positive. We haven't changed it actually, but keeping to that formula every time, I think that has really helped us ground and grow and know what we stand for in terms of our purpose. Tech stuff always baffles us. That's why we're in this room, and we've come to realise we need some help in that space. And we thought we could use some of those tools out there ourselves, and sometimes it didn't produce, the edit that we might have wanted it to do. So it isn't a, sugar-coated solution. So I think we've learned a lot about that, and how do we professionalize this so people want to be engaged and listen?
And I think why that's really important to me, and it goes back to some of the feedback is, how do we give the guests the platform they deserve?
Yeah,
ultimately,
absolutely.
because they
experience.
because they come and give their time openly and freely and give so much. It's got to be right for them, hasn't it? And and what they're about and what they're doing, and I think that's why this is going to this next level is really important. And I'll go back to the phrase, and you will have heard me say it on this podcast before, is you have to earn the right.
Yeah.
You have to figure out what doesn't work, what works, is the formula right, and we'll be open for that to move and change and stuff. But it's been a labour of love, is how I would say it. So there's been lots of effort. Has it all been perfect and efficient at times? No. But that said, people have listened. We're now in 13 countries across the world, which is mind-boggling to me.
It is mind-boggling.
All over the world.
Do we have to learn new languages?
We may do.
I do a bit of Welsh. Okay.
Okay. I tried to do that one time and it went horribly wrong, but that's another episode in its right. But even that is hugely humbling.
Yeah, definitely.
People around the world would listen to our podcast on leadership, but given the quality of the guests, and we'll go through these, it doesn't surprise me one little bit.
No, definitely not.
Because if I take one sort of surprise moment, if you like, it has been the guests that we've been able to speak to in this series. It is literally, in my wildest dreams, you said I was, what did you say?
Big dreamer.
A bit of a dreamer with courage.
Yeah.
Beyond my wildest dreams, did I think we'd get this guest list? Not a chance.
I know. It is absolutely amazing. I agree. And, the enjoyment that we've got from, talking to and finding some of those gems that we can use as well. It's really enhanced my thinking personally as well. So,
and that's what I mean. I don't mean the guests just to have them on the show per se. I mean to actually have a conversation. And with Series 1, the conversations, the in-depth focus on them, getting to know them and understand, having seen their work from afar.
Yeah.
has been amazing, but to actually be in it for a short time has been a real privilege.
Absolutely. So should we do a little ditty on our guest? So we started off our series 2 with Ollie Mel. He was our world kettlebell champion, ex-Marine, and had done a lot of stuff in the team space. And for me, there was a big message. He did this exercise and I've used it afterwards, like making a brew for someone else says everything about team culture. So he talked about, you know, when he was in the Marines, and he's used this now in his own kettlebell team, that you're not allowed to make a cup of tea for yourself. You have to make it for everybody else. And I absolutely loved that ethos, you know, that real connection as a team. So that was a really good start to series 2. Then we had Alison, didn't we? Alison Blackley. Yeah. She is leadership with the brain in mind. So really founded in neuroscience. And what I liked, or what is a little bit different, is like looking at all the models, but with what does that do to your brain? So what are the triggers? Where might you get into a fear state? How can you get back into calm state? So kind of really looking at that, the health of your brain, really. And, you know, in the world of leadership, there are lots of triggers for people. So, you know, I like that view.
And we had this conversation, didn't we? Saying like I think you said I sort of challenged certain bits in that episode, but she blew my like mine in terms of made me really think differently.
Yeah,
that's what I loved about it. Like sometimes with these episodes, you come away like 3 or 4 days later going, "Oh my gosh!" and then it hits you.
Yeah.
Really, and I took so much from Alison. And she was right at the cusp of being signed. So I think we should be about to be announced for the TEDx.
Yeah, and she got to do it. Yeah,
TEDx
so
talk
she is an official TEDx speaker now.
So, you know, if you're watching this or you're listening to this, then check her out on TEDx. Because again, I think it was 6.5 minutes, but it was brilliant and challenged lots of my assumptions, actually.
Yeah, absolutely, about our generation. So amazing. Well, I'm going to ask you about the next one. Baroness Dido Harding. What do you take away from that?
You know what? I've gone a bit goosebumpy, right? Because it's really easy to criticise people from afar in public life. We do it all the time, particularly with social media, and we talk about that a lot. She's somebody that fronts stuff and faces stuff, and when she did really deep reflection on her leadership journey, where that came from, and then told the story about her granddad and the letter that was with all troops passing out from Sandringham that she didn't get to know and only found it years later, really hit me profoundly. Yeah. The fact that she invested the time, effort and energy into what she did for the podcast, to share so openly, and then to be the first female chair in 275 years of an organisation is phenomenal by anyone's standards. You know, being a CEO of organisations, and for her to like say, you know, she used to think that she didn't want to just be put up there as a female CEO. She wanted to be there on merit. She absolutely was, but now she champions women in leadership, and that's something we're really passionate about on this show. You know, and I used to work for I was on like ground floor, if you like, compared to a CEO. We had a conversation at a level, you know, to celebrate what she's done and how she's done it. And I know that she even said herself, like even with NHS Track and Trace, people have got lots of views and opinions on that, but she gave her side of the story that you don't always hear, but she also gave a personal side about how she became the leader she is, and how important she thinks investment in leadership development is, and how she never, like, that's her absolute go-to, and she doesn't cut on that.
No, she was an amazing woman, really inspired, a role model for female leaders, absolutely. And her background was just phenomenal.
And we've not even talked about her being in the House of Lords,
no,
and now championing, you know, digital, which is in everything, actually.
Yeah.
She's one of the key decision makers in the country.
Wow. Well, it didn't stop there, Lee. Then we went on to interview Brendan Hall, who is a worldwide speaker through his time on the seas. What did you take from that?
It was some of the most powerful content I think I've ever had the privilege to listen to. The thing that got me most is, and if anyone wants to connect with Brendan, they should do, because hearing it firsthand, the things he experienced and his humility to adapt and change in a moment. I keep imagining, it's weird this, I keep imagining myself being on a vessel, because I can't quite picture what that is for him, on the sea, and going, how would you even begin to lead in that scenario? And I can't, because it would be so alien to me. And we had a laugh while we talked about the Below Deck series.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I imagine. He's like, well, no, not really. But I can't even begin to imagine some of the decisions he had to make. And what really shone through for me is what an exceptional leader he is, but how he articulates it for others to be better for themselves. Absolutely.
The lessons he learned, he's really assimilated that into something that every leader can use practically. And I have people want to see him, and talk about leadership, because it is so practical. There are so many takeaways. He's got a fantastic book. It's a great read with some real gems in there around how to lead, and what he is on the front line looking after those people's lives. And they'd never, ever been part of a ship crew before. So, like the ultimate leadership goals. And
I loved, I've just remembered something. I loved how he had like a really clear, this is what I want to do. And he was not, or, he didn't get it the first time around, but he went back and was even more clear next time around what he needed to do.
Yeah.
And in that gap, he kind of filled in the gap so that when he did get there next time, he was ready, he was able, and it was like, that's so powerful to me anyway, even on this series, right? Like, how do we make it the best it can be? I took a lot from that person.
And how to step back. That would be my final. He didn't always make all the decisions.
No.
And so, he was fantastic. And then we went on to someone we know very, very well.
So let me ask you about this one.
Ask me
it's right. So what were your reflections about Dave Harrison?
The boss.
Yeah.
The boss.
The boss.
Him. Yeah. Other than Bruce Springsteen, he is the boss. Dave is the ultimate positive psychology, kind of strengths-based thinking. He has that lens to everything that he thinks about in the leadership world. We talked a lot about change, and we talked a lot about, coming from things from a different perspective. And he really talks about the gain rather than the gap. And I think that's had a real change in the way that I, come into co-creation. I think about things. I think a long time ago, I did Strengths Finder by myself with a team, and I was bought into that, but I probably haven't done it since. And so to come and see things with that refreshed view, and it can just translate anything into that space, and it just becomes more positive and more progressive, and be able to, the can-do elements to it. And then lots to learn from his life as a dad of triplet girls, and I know, mad.
Wild.
And also he's been a business leader. He's been a business leader for a good number of years in this leadership space. So holds an incredible amount of knowledge and expertise, but always wants to do the right thing. The business, and Dave is all about how can we support and help these leaders move forward, because the mission is to change the way people lead in the world. For good, for the power of good, and he encompasses all that.
Amazing, and I echo everything that you've just said. Knowing him personally and worked with him for, not as closely as you, but over a slightly longer period of time.
Yeah.
Amazing guy. I'm going to move on to you, Chenna.
Yeah.
What were your reflections?
Oh, she was, a bright spark. I mean that in terms of humour and funny and lots of drive, but really her humility and human, and talking about a story of starting as a hairdresser and what she learned and how that led her on a different path. What do they call it when it's all that squiggly path? Thanks, Lee. Into project management, And you can see that she was determined to get there and, you know, put the effort in to make that happen, and talked about how we can apply some of that thinking to leadership, so that agile leadership thinking, and gave us a lot of insight into that. And I think that's the way of the world. Change is so fast. We keep talking about it, but knowledge soon will no longer be power. We can get some of that elsewhere. So we need to be able to adapt to whatever we're facing as leaders. And she gave us some amazing tips in that space. But just a great, lovely woman too.
And also like that matrix leadership.
Yeah.
And how do you make that work versus kind of formal, structured teams was one of my takeaways. Like, how do you navigate it?
Absolutely.
It's never quite straightforward, is it?
No. And I think it's been a long time in the world of change, but I think we're starting to see, as agile, starting to see as how does that apply across, you know, the world of work. And I think we should watch this space. I think there'll be a lot more of that. So loved you, Chenna. So then we went on to Chris Knight, who I think he was surprised that you remembered this story that we described up front as the reluctant leader. What was that about?
So I was in a previous organisation, I was running a leadership program or leadership course, and Chris was with his DRs at the time, and he announced that he was a reluctant leader. And he was a bit mischievous on the day, wasn't he? And he described himself as that. And it really struck a chord with me, because I was like, he's in front of his team, he's being mischievous, but he's also being authentic and open. And it stayed with me for a long, long time. It was almost a scratch that I needed to itch with him. But, you know, he's got so much capability, was what I came away with. He's got so much brilliant commercial thinking, and he does it in a way that he's not trying to be anybody else. He's trying to be himself. And I love the fact he questioned, you know, what other people have done, going, I know the answer to this, I've got the answer. He might not have the platform or understand the best way to say it, which is what he's worked through in his career. Yeah. The other thing was saying, because he'd had a knockback, it put him back 10 years from a leadership front. I mean, that's massive to recognise and say. And it was through the power of coaching that helped him unlock that. You know, and I think that that's just a marvellous advocation for, not for just like what the power of coaching per se. How do you unlock somebody's thinking and even courage or circumstance in that moment to go for something? And I'm thrilled that he's turned around an organisation. I'm thrilled that he's now made it profitable again, and that he's had some hard decisions to make in that, but he's laid a plan, and he very much talked about a plan and a structure. Yeah,
I think that was unique about him. Apart from he was really vulnerable and honest and an open book, but I think he's got a genius personality and preferences as well. He was a big picture thinker, but he also knew how to put that in place and really practical planning. You know, so he could idealize the strategy, but then go, and this is what we need to do to make it happen. Not many people have that whole thinking in their armory, and he definitely, that came across really strongly. So yeah, amazing. Learned a lot from him as a leader, and again, he's really successful now as well. So that, you know, that really shined through. So I love that.
And then what happened when we went near Man City's ground? The velodrome.
The velodrome.
We
British cycling.
John Dutton.
I mean, well, when I turned up, and I remember saying to you, how do you know John? He's like, I don't. It's a connection that we've made, and we're in this most amazing building. But what I will never forget is the welcome that we got from John. So we went to the floor, and it was absolutely buzzing. And we've talked a lot with people about walking the floor. You know, this floor was amazing to walk. So lots of people, lots of bikes, lots of really great displays, which really, you know, their purpose and their plans are all around the room. And it was just a very welcoming environment. And then he came to meet us. So we didn't know what he looked like. I didn't know what he looked like properly. And he was like, hi, and gave us a big welcome. Went and made us a cup of tea, didn't he? And you were like, making us a cup of tea? And just helped us set up. embarrassing for us because we were rubbish, but helped us set up, and just such a powerful leader. You know, it was all about his people. But he just embraced it. They all knew him. You know, he was really welcoming. He talked a lot about his strategy and how he turned things around. But we were in awe. But he was just a normal, grounded human who just wanted to do the right thing by his people, but had been involved in the most incredible projects. Unbelievable.
And John Dutton, OBE, right?
Yeah.
And there was no, you know, CEO of British Cycling. There was no title. It was the humility. Equally, I will never forget that welcome. So it's interesting that we've both said that. And I go, there's not many CEOs when you rock up to an organisation that go, oh, I'll go and make you a brew. When he's got a team of like 150 people, or there's the kitchen. That will stay with me for a long time.
And me. It was, and he, you know, it was good fun. He said it was good fun.
Yeah.
And we got a tour.
Yeah, it was great. And, you know, the other thing, like the social impact, was the bit that really hit home for me. That lit a fire in me that I know I've got that in me. I think the way John articulates it and the work that him and his team do is phenomenal. Underpinned though by the financial. You know, he's got a real, obviously, commercial head to go, how do we make this work?
Yeah. And we took that away, didn't we? And we've been thinking about ourselves, you know, how do we bring some more of that into the work that we do, our podcast, but also our leadership development and our culture development, because it lit a fire in me as well. And we've had numbers of conversations and connecting out there. So I think watch that space. And when we do deliver, they'll say, where did that start? And although it was in us, I think he definitely sparked those conversations straight away. So amazing.
And we should give an acknowledgement to Chris Brindley of Series 1 that helped get John on the podcast.
Absolutely. He's an amazing man, and we should have him on again, actually. He's inspired so many people in our guest list. So love you, Chris. Definitely. So this next one, like you're laughing. I've never seen you so quiet, really, because John Shields has Man United in his title, so it's obviously going to be. And you were just totally in awe, weren't you?
I was.
Amazing man.
I was, and I've got no qualms in saying that. So Manchester United Foundation, he's the CEO. So there is that, you know, MBE, the titles. It actually wasn't that, though. The thing that got me more than anything, I'm a trustee of a charity called Active Hope in Warrington, and it's about giving underserved kids a chance. And that's what John spoke of.
He did. That
you
was
know,
his purpose.
So not only is he the CEO of the Man United Foundation, he's also a trustee of the Sir Bobby Charlton Schools Foundation, and he's also a trustee or a governor of the Dean's Trust. So very educational focused, you know, former teacher. There was so many connections, and he was so, we talk about humility. You know, he said he's the most selfish man in the world because of the stuff and the charity stuff that he does and what joy that gives him. And whenever I do that stuff, or we do that stuff, the charity walk that we did with co-creation for Macmillan, that's the bit that just, I don't know, it does something with me in my own business. Like Phantom Place, I've supported something like 7 charities, probably too much for a small little business, but it's a bit that gives me joy. You talk about joy.
Yeah.
And there's opportunities moving forward about next year. And I didn't know that today was going to be the day that I was going to announce it, but I've just decided I'm going to.
Go on then.
So John at the end of his episode did a call to action, and he said, if we all do our own little bit, we will make the world a better place. And he talked about he likes people that do rather than talk about stuff. It's like quite ironic on a podcast. But I made that decision that day after walking out that room that I was going to cycle John O'Groats to Land's End.
Yeah.
For the charity for Active Hope that I'm a trustee of, and I don't know exactly how I'm going to do it. A bit like this podcast, but you talk about being courageous. So I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to get a team together, and next year to celebrate the 20th year anniversary of Active Hope, I'm going to do a challenge that, like right now, scares the absolute EBGBs out of me, but inspired by John Shields and the efforts of Sarah Cox this year that for Children in Need, which has been an important part of my year. I'm gonna do it next year.
Amazing. There we are. You've heard it first.
I can't go back on it now.
You can't go back on it. I'm going to support you. I'm going to be your cheerleader now.
Oh, you're not cycling with me?
We have a tandem, maybe. Maybe. That is amazing. And thank you for announcing that. Amazing to John to inspire you in that. So our final person was Laura Pomfret.
So let me ask you about Laura.
Yeah, go on.
Because I think there's just been almost like, what was our takeaway? What was Laura for you? How?
Oh, this is a difficult one, I'm going to say, because it became very personal for me. So I will say it, because that's part of what we do. So Laura talks about financial well-being, particularly as a female. And whilst listening and asking these questions, I found myself internally getting quite emotional, and a lot of the things that she said, I'm not saying resonated, made me think and challenged my own personal thinking. And at the end of it, I actually did break down, and I was really emotional, because I felt like I'd been burying my head in the sand a little bit around my own financial well-being, being a mum on my own and kind of managing some of that stuff. And I do want to make a difference, but it doesn't make a difference if you don't actually face into some of those stuff. So following the podcast, I hope she'll like me saying this, she did reach out, and I've been able to use some of her amazing tools that she's got, and I do see things differently, and I do feel the light. It's so for me personally, she's had an amazing impact, and I think there's many more females out there now. I've started to talk about it a little bit more, who don't look at their wealth in that way, and are scared, and it's the biggest fear factor, around. And we talk about well-being, but often financial well-being isn't even in the part. It isn't something that in the workplace scenario as well that is talked about. And it is a really big fear generator. So for me, and Laura is, she hasn't got qualifications, she says, in this space, but she's got huge expertise, and she's talking about the things that really matter and giving some real practical help and hope to women out there to be different and to see things differently, and, to challenge the status quo, which I think we need to do more things around empowering women and leaders and mums out there. So she had a massive impact. So thank you, Laura. If you're listening, you're an amazing woman.
That's so amazing to hear, It is really, like, there's some of the experiences that we've had. I mean, I know you said, like, I was in awe of John. I didn't really say that. Like, that's how it kind of impacts you along the way.
Yeah.
I agree that we've both grown through that process, like we were saying before. It reminded me, Laura came on and she went, and I said, what have you been doing this morning? And she said, I was, I kind of take it for granted, but I've just been live to 1.3 million people on Morning Live.
I know. And then talking to us.
I know. But isn't it interesting that, like, one conversation can change a room or can change a life?
Totally.
And
that's all it's about, isn't it?
Yeah. And any leader listening to this that, might be having a difficult time or might wanting to be flourishing even more, or to think about what their next steps are, hopefully there's some nuggets that people can take away from Series 2. We'd love to hear what your takeaway has been. We always love the messages and engagement with the podcast. Because the more that we can do that and create the community, the more benefit it can have ultimately.
Yeah, and it's exciting. It's Christmas coming up and New Year and big plans. We can't say anything, but watch this space. Some very exciting things in the planning, in the strategy.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris, for the strategy and the plan, or the thought of the plan and the strategy.
You've got a 7-page document. So, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to our next step. I know we just go up and up and up.
And have you got any thanks to give? I know we've, it goes without saying a thank you to all the guests that have been on. But have you got any other wider thanks? I wasn't.
You. Likes a good thanks. No, but Lee, we wouldn't be doing it without you. So I know, and keeps us going and keeps us in there and keeps us energized and gives us joy. So I absolutely thank you. Meg's in the room. She's been helping us professionalize, so I'm going to thank Meg. And the listeners, those out there or followers or anyone who's commented or give us any feedback. Dave Harrison for supporting behind the scenes, sometimes looking after our guests, and championing us and sponsoring us, and and anyone who comments on that space. Absolutely, we can't do it without all those people. About you.
Again, I'd like to thank the listeners. It goes without saying. I'd particularly like to thank Freddie, because I think he's appeared in virtually every episode, and Ella, Amand, my wife, who, they give up a lot from my perspective on allowing me to come and do this, and have been really supportive of me. And then finally, for you, and this is, a bit of a mushy moment, but you've properly inspired me throughout, not just this series, but last series. But I'm really excited, and I say that a lot, I know, but I'm really excited for what's to come. As well as, we have to earn the right and we have to keep it real. But my golly. My golly gosh.
It's going to be fun, Lee. Especially if you keep wearing them mustard socks.
I tell you what, they're belters, them, aren't they?
You and Alan Partridge.
I think that's... No. What a compliment. Thank you.
I know. That's why you love me. Thanks, Lee.
Thanks.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been totes emotion.
Totes emotion. And we go on. This isn't the end, it's the beginning.
Thank you so much for watching. So we hope you have an amazing Christmas period with loved ones and families. And then you can obviously listen back to Series 1 or Series 2 whilst you got some time off over the Christmas period. If you're working, maybe listen to it in your break. And then we start all over again for Series 3.
Yeah.
And the first drop of that will be the first Tuesday in the new year.
Yeah. Amazing.
Very exciting stuff.
Very exciting. More in here, I think.
I know. Oh,
exciting. Ooh.
Amazing. Let's do it.
Let's do it. See you in the new year.
See you in the new year. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.